It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I interrupted you.
No, it's your show. Go ahead.
No, you do.
No, please.
No, please.
No, we'll just do this for 5 hours. So we're here.
Oh, my gosh. What a day yesterday. I can't stop laughing.
Yeah. It was, it seems that so many things are falling apart in the Harris campaign, and then even more things are falling apart in the Biden-Harris administration.
Oh, he threw her under the bus. I
was waiting for that to happen. I'm sitting there thinking, since he dropped out of the race, I'm like, Biden is defiant. He didn't want to drop out. He understands he was forced out. His own party forced him out. He's got nothing to lose now. It's a matter of time before he throws her under the bus.
I mean, I can't stand it. I couldn't stop laughing just, when I came in and just started reading the latest articles out there. I mean, Karl Rove's article from late yesterday afternoon, How Biden Keeps Helping Trump. The president plans to annoy voters by touring the nation to tout his record. I thought it was the Babylon Bee.
Yeah.
The president plans to annoy voters by touring the nation to tout his record and say, what a great record I have. And Kamala was a part of it, and he was on The View. I mean, that's his whole plan, to go to different places to promote what a great, 4 years it's been, and making sure that he includes Kamala in all of it.
And this isn't, by the way, after January 20th of next year, when you might go out and go, legacy building. And I just want to let people know that I still am very concerned about the country, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not going to just ride off into the sunset, and our accomplishments are blah, 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 blah. He's doing this as she's trying to separate herself from his administration. Wait for the next stage of this when he says, listen, I got all of my ideas from Kamala Harris directly. I wasn't going to say this because, I've been around for a while. But she had all these new ideas, paying off college loans, opening the border, spending like there's no tomorrow, causing inflation. Man, she knocked it out of the park, huh?
And I mean, this is the short audio cut where he does it here.
All right,
here we go.
Yeah. And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Everything.
Everything. Oh, my God. Oh. And I listened to everything she said. She said, open the border wide open. I said, yeah, okay, we'll do it. It's her recommendation.
And basically what he said was, I delegated everything to her.
Yeah.
She's in charge of it all.
I wasn't going to leave Afghanistan, but she came to me and said, you know what? We should probably get out of Afghanistan.
I mean, Trump's going to have a field day with that one.
I would.
Because the one thing, he just took Mark Cuban's number one defense of Kamala away, which was, does anybody realize? What is Harris? She's the vice president.
Yeah.
She's not in charge. Well, Biden just said, Mark, she was in charge.
Yes.
He delegated it to her.
Right.
He delegated. Okay. Oh, fine. That's cool.
Hey, listen.
My God.
Let's remember. Since dropping out of the race, he, without being asked, has worn a MAGA hat. It's a true story. He's helping Donald Trump in so many ways.
Yeah, since he put on that MAGA hat, you're right.
This is a new Biden. I'm willing to wait to see where this goes. In fact, I'm going to make a lot of popcorn and watch it.
I'm just reading Karl Rove here. What does Joe Biden think he's doing? More important, what do the geniuses running the White House communication shop think they're doing? According to Politico, the president will spend the fall on the road doing a tour that will focus largely on the administration's accomplishments in a substantive higher payoff higher payoff events.
Yeah.
The schedule will be robust, and he plans to leave it all on the field, the White House communications director promises.
Wow.
Axios reports that the president plans to communicate directly with Americans on how the Biden-Harris agenda will pay dividends now, 10, 20, and 30 years into the future.
Yeah.
Wow. You have to ask the question, is this revenge for everything that happened?
No,
Subtle revenge. You've got to ask that question.
In my heart of hearts, you can't convince me otherwise, knowing how defiant he is. He wasn't getting out, Jack. He's fine. He's gonna just. They just did that when they signed the thing. He's okay. He was completely defiant in the whole thing. And then he got the call from the godmother, Nancy, who told him, it's time to get out.
And then this. Why he left the race. You ready? Here we go.
All right.
Here we
go.
Okay.
We're having so much success in getting things done that people thought we couldn't get done.
Right.
I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to, pass that torch. But working with Kamala, she is bright, she is tough, she's honorable. And the thing I like about her, and one thing we share in common, is that we have an optimistic view of the future here.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it just... I'm reading Karl Rove here. The strategy may sound smart to West Wing staffers, spitballing how to occupy Mr. Biden's time. But the Harris-Walz campaign team has to be less than thrilled about the possibility of the Biden valedictorian tour in the months before the election. One reason it's a bad idea is Mr. Biden has become, to put it mildly, a terrible communicator. Remember the debate?
Yeah.
He hasn't magically gotten better since then. His presence on the road might remind Americans why they're grateful he stepped aside. It certainly won't make them feel better about his handling of the economy, the border security, or world events. Wow. Another reason is Democrats cannot want Mr. Biden to be more visible in the run-up to the election than Vice President Harris is.
He's going to go out. It's so funny because he's going to be doing a ton of interviews and appearances, and she'll be doing virtually none.
Oh, my.
Wow, what a cluster. What a cluster. Holy Moses. By the way, after yesterday, I now, because when Hunter Biden made that weird plea deal at his in court, was it 2-3 weeks ago? They come back from lunch. All of a sudden, he pleads guilty to everything, and they asked him specifically, "You're saying you're guilty of all of the items here?" And he said yes. Everybody was saying, "Oh man, Joe Biden said there's no pardon, but there's going to be a pardon." And I was coming up with all the different ways. I think it's going to be direct. It's what you said. Joe Biden will just turn around and, right after the election. I pardon Hunter. I pardon my brother Jim. I pardon me. I pardon the illegitimate child that Hunter had because, just take a look at her parents. She'll probably end up somewhere. And he's going to just issue pardons left and right. He doesn't care. He's going to burn the house down as he's walking away from it and not look back. This is defiant Joe Biden. He doesn't care. He's going to tell you. If she loses especially, it's going to be a barn burner. It's going to be nonstop Joe all the time. I could have won. I could have won. I could have won. I pardon Hunter. I could have won. I could have won. I could have won. I could have won. Look at all the things I did, Jack. You were all wrong, even my own party. See ya. Mic drop. He's out.
Then we'll play this audio later, but I just have to read how this was written. Jeffrey Blair in National Review. Biden couldn't help but rewrite his past, however, when it came to the very first question of the interview. Why did you drop out? Biden's answer was typical of his present state of eloquence. Quote, and I'm reading this verbatim from the quote.
All right.
Look, when I ran for my first, this last term, I said that I saw myself as a transition president transitioning to a new generation of leadership. Then he made a canned joke about his age, which landed flat, and then summarized thusly, quote, what happened was we were having so much success involving getting things done from those people that thought we couldn't get it done. I found myself having used more time than I would have ordinarily to pass the torch. And then he writes, to steal a line from Donald Trump, I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. Oh, my God. I mean, I've been laughing for the last 45 minutes before we went on the air. I'm like, this is just when you think nothing can top the day before.
Yeah. But it was inevitable, wasn't it? Defiant Joe Biden?
Yes.
Not after the election, but before. Of course he's going to come out. Well, he's coming out to do his laps before it's even over, months before it's over, before the election. Well, this isn't, by the way, this is not legacy building. I can hear the liberal media, well, this will be a legacy building tour. Nope. It's going to be, hey, Kamala, how's it look under the bus tour?
Was it just me, or when the camera flashed to the faces, Whoopi especially, and she has this smile on, to me it's a fake smile.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, they're thinking, this was not a good idea to bring him on, but you can't refuse to bring on the president of the United States, but we should have refused the interview because he's throwing her under the bus. And we'll get to all this also, and then we spent a lot of time talking about Bill Maher last week, and you had Stephanie Ruhle, who was on there with, I can't think of the guys, not David Brooks, he's on NPR, the other guy from New York Times, the Never Trumper, who was saying he goes, I'll never vote for Trump, but we need to find out more. We need to find out where she stands. And Stephanie Ruhle from MSNBC was saying, no, we don't. No, we don't. No, we don't. We know where he stands. We don't need. She doesn't need to answer any questions. I wake up yesterday morning and it's like, Stephanie Ruhle's going to interview her. I'm like, what? And then she goes on MSNBC at the end and went, nah, she didn't answer questions. You know what I think happened there? This is a whole Bernard Goldberg thing. They think they're journalists. They think they're journalists. As he said, he goes, they don't believe they're biased. They just believe they're above everybody and know what's going on, and they're not liberal or conservative, and they hate when you call them that or you call them political activists because they just believe they're above everybody and know everything, and so they don't believe they're biased. They just believe they're all knowledgeable. And I think what happens is, since it came across and she was being blasted everywhere saying you're not a journalist, I think that got to her. Because otherwise she should have, based on what she said Friday, she should have refused doing the interview.
Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't need to. And then all of a sudden, Stephanie Ruhle needs to build some journalism credibility.
But the whole point is, she doesn't want her interviewed. She interviews her. Harris ends up doing horrible.
Yeah.
And you're going to the left going, well, she was fact-checking her too much. You might as well put her on Fox News.
Right.
The left isn't going to be happy with her. They can't win. You know something? Nobody can win. Nobody in liberalism can win right now because they're not being honest with the American people.
Well, the thing is that the truth is standing right there in front of you. You can't argue, and everybody sees it. This isn't truth that has been uncovered. This is truth that is in broad daylight. The reality of everything right now, and there's no way to debate it. And they're desperate because their old tactics used to work. How is it that we can't get through an election cycle out there on the road promising the world, well, because the world is done with that kind of empty promise, knowing what it led to, the reality and the damage it's caused that they're facing every day.
We're going to have a holistically great show coming up today.
Yeah.
You had to be paying attention to understand that, of what happened yesterday. But we'll have that audio coming up, too. 866-98-RED-EYE.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Did you know that up to half of all major engine failures are due to poor cooling system maintenance? That's a lot of downtime and can cost drivers big. You expect a lot from your engine, which is why the cooling system must be a part of your maintenance routine. Here's a tip to keep your cooling system in shape and your engine running smooth. Have the system properly flushed whenever the coolant is changed. Over time, contaminants from seals, oil, and fuel are released into the system and must be removed. And remember, flushing the system with the right coolant mix and water dilution is crucial. If you have coolant questions or need an expert to help flush your system, have your cooling system inspected by a professional technician.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Also coming up, we'll keep you updated throughout the night on the status of Hurricane Helene. Expected to be a Cat 4.
Yeah.
That means winds over 131 miles an hour.
This is just incredible to see the strength of this storm. As you mentioned, you've been talking about how fast the storm is moving, but our friends in Tallahassee are watching this very closely. We can't stress this enough. You need to heed the warnings. All the local and state warnings. You need to heed the warnings. You need to get to higher ground. You need to get out of the way of this storm. You need to get out of the way of this storm. There's no other way to say it. The flooding they're talking about surges of 18 to 20 feet.
Yeah.
The flooding in any hurricane is the deadliest element of it, both the rainfall and the storm surge. When you're talking storm surge of 20 feet, I've seen the remnants of a 6-foot storm surge about a week after it happened. And I wasn't even there when it happened, but I was there about a week after it happened, and it was crazy. It was unreal, the damage that did. 18 to 20 feet in some areas with this storm is what they're saying. That is deadly flooding. That is life-threatening situation. That there is no other choice but to get out of the way of this storm. And however you have to do that, you need to do it. They're expecting damaging winds to arrive late Thursday and the eye to hit shore again late Thursday into Friday. And we're going to keep you posted. Helene is going to be a very dangerous storm.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. Where is very important.
That's right.
Take it with you.
Yes.
I was, one of the things I've been watching on YouTube. It came up in Shuffle, and it's this demolition company in Fort Myers. And the work they're doing after Ian, still today, 2 years. I mean, it was 2 years ago, like right about now.
Yeah.
And that was a Category 5, 160 mile an hour winds is what that maxed out at. But just watching how much destruction, even 2 years later. Now that's a more populated area than what it's going to hit in the Big Bend area of Florida. But one of the things that because I love running YouTube and I don't get commercials on YouTube, so I just run it in Shuffle and stuff comes up. And there was a camera in Fort Myers, I think it was on one of the islands, showing a storm surge. That camera was like 12 hours in real time. They didn't time lapse it, just in real time. And there were cars that were driving down this road an hour before the storm surge hit, maybe 45 minutes before, you could see on the camera.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody was off it because that storm surge came in, and you would see, the water got up, almost as high as the camera.
Yeah.
And this probably looked like a storm surge of maybe about 12, 13 feet at this point. And you saw all these houses and everything else there.
Right.
And then when the water went down, everything gone.
Right.
It was just, it's terrifying. So when you look at Helene and what it could do, you're anywhere near the coast, you've got to move. And this thing's going to stay strong. It's still going to be a hurricane by the time it, gets to Georgia.
Yeah, you're going to have damaging winds well into Georgia. In fact, that and also the consideration for power outages, as is the case as it comes ashore. Folks in Tallahassee can expect widespread, and that entire region of Florida and into Georgia, widespread power outages. But even they're forecasting likely power outages for most of Georgia. The footprint on this storm is going to be huge. There is very little or low wind shear here before Helene hits land. There might be increased wind shear right before it hits land. By then, it's going to be a massive storm. And so all of the things that come with that, the flooding, the storm surge, as we mentioned, 18 to 20 feet. That's mind-boggling. And then you add to that the rain. There could be well into Georgia. There could be flooding rain. They're saying 8 to 10 inches of rain in some areas well inland. It is going to wreak havoc for a while. And the best thing you can do is get out of the way of this storm, get to higher ground. But even if you're in states like Georgia, you're going to see, in fact, South Carolina is going to see possibly some power outages. They're going to see some rain out of this. But if you're well inland, you still need to be prepared for those power outages and things, and possible wind damage that often triggers those power outages. You're talking about tree limbs that come down. But storms like this also have the ability, in fact, likelihood of creating tornadoes, spawning tornadoes. And so that becomes a problem as the storm rolls through. Again, the forecast model that came out earlier this week, and I saw one and I watched it, and they said, look, this is the one to be afraid of because it puts Helene at a Category 4, and this is back before it had even earned the name yet. And they said if this is accurate here, this is going to be a very deadly storm. And now they're predicting that could be the case. As you mentioned, sustained winds of 130 miles an hour plus. That is, again, one of those storms that they'll study in the history books.
You know, you were telling me that Greg Tish from Real Talk 93.3 in Tallahassee, one of our great affiliates.
Yeah.
And we just love them down there. It's a station that DeSantis listens to.
It is.
And so, he follows our advice.
He does.
But you're telling me that Greg had emailed you and said that this is could be the first direct hit at Tallahassee.
Yeah,
Tallahassee?
he says that in fact we're trying to set it up if it's safe for him to do so. We're going to have Greg on tomorrow's show, but we want to make sure that he and everyone else in the path of this storm are to higher ground. But wherever they are, we're looking to have Greg Tish on with us sometime during the show tomorrow to fill us in as to what preparation was like. Obviously, we still won't know about the aftermath because we'll be ahead of that tomorrow. And then he wrote to me, in fact, sent me a message. We've never had a direct hit here in Tallahassee. And again, it's one of those things where you look at it, and the one thing about hurricanes is you do have days ahead of warning time. And it's hard to predict exact landfall when it comes to the eye of the storm. However, with hurricanes, again, they have such a large footprint, being on what they call the dirty side of the storm. And that would be because it turns counterclockwise. That would be, in this case, on the eastern side of that storm and southern side of that storm, and the north of the eye and east of the eye. You look at where that basically that wind is just pushing that water up on shore, that storm surge, and then it's mind-boggling to think of a storm surge of 18 to 20 feet. If that comes to fruition, it is going to be extremely dangerous,
right.
And we're hoping and praying everyone gets out of the way of the storm.
Now, Tallahassee is 36 miles from the water,
right?
The closest
right.
part to the water.
And Greg's filled this in before, as to what the landscape is, and so we're hoping to, in fact, repeat that tomorrow on the show if Greg Tish from our great affiliate WVFT there in Tallahassee is able to join us. He volunteered, by the way. He said, hey, I'd be available, and we certainly want to take advantage of that, knowing how chaotic it's going to be for everybody there, including the staff there on air at that great affiliate. In the media, our job is to stay on the air during storms even, and you look to be able to provide all the information for locals to make sure that they have everything before, during, and after a storm. And this isn't just any storm. This is a massive hurricane.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up is, you're the major thing, wind damage, flooding.
Yeah.
And, the storm surge isn't going to reach, that was my point, 36 miles in.
Right.
But still, you're going to, it's interesting because if you look at the actual hurricane warning, it goes all the way from, well, it looks like it's just, you can't really tell, but from Tampa all the way up. Yeah. And I got a ton of friends, my buddy Jerry, Katie, another friend of mine lives in Sarasota, a guy I used to play basketball with when he was a TV anchor, Ray Collins in Sarasota, and he took a picture yesterday saying, look how nice it looks there. One of our great listeners, who's a Facebook friend of mine, Ann, lives also in the Tampa area.
Right.
And we got a lot of great listeners there. And so it's really interesting that a lot of them were like, not sure what to do yet.
Right.
Because it you could see over the last couple of days, the eye moved a little bit more westerly.
Right.
And so what I get from them is, we're not sure what's going to happen. Nobody's really sure with this thing. But again, because as you said, it's counterclockwise, they're on the dirty side.
Well, and you got to keep in mind here, tropical storm force winds extend nearly 350 miles from Helene's center. Think about that. Tropical storm force winds, nearly 350 miles from Helene's center. That's the footprint of this storm.
Yeah, because when you look at the map, you see it all the way around the entire state of Florida.
Yeah, yeah, and
even on the Atlantic side.
Right, right.
When I saw that, I went, "Whoa!" And I think it probably goes a little bit above, even into Georgia, doesn't it?
Yes,
I haven't looked at it.
As the eye makes landfall, yes, and again, well into Georgia, you're still looking at damaging winds. And those damaging winds, again, often trigger power outages and are dangerous to people as tree limbs fall, as trees fall. If you talk about the flooding, if you talk about all of the water from a storm like this, then you're getting into basically the roots of these old trees, and this is what happens. And as the soil softens up and the very strong winds come in, all of a sudden, a tree will go down on a house, on a road, and everything else. It becomes extremely dangerous for individuals.
The tropical storm warning all the way up to the South Carolina, North Carolina border.
Yeah.
That's where you look at this and you say, this thing, you're talking about then major wind speed, even in those outer bands.
Right, exactly. Yeah. As far as 350 miles from the center.
Yeah. Not just Georgia, all the way along.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Up to the North Carolina border.
Mm-hmm. Wow. It's crazy.
Right now, just so people know, this is the 10 p.m. Central Time advisory. We should have another one coming up in the next couple of minutes. Maximum sustained winds right now of 85 miles an hour. So this thing is going to gain a tremendous amount of strength.
Again, there's low wind shear here, and that's really what is helping the warm water of the Gulf and the low wind shear. There won't be increased wind shear until it gets very close to shore, and by that time, it's too late. This is a monster in the making right now with those conditions.
Well, we will keep you updated. We'll have the latest update coming up after the top of the hour. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the top of the hour, Iran's plot against Trump. By the way, Trump made a great point yesterday. Leader of Iran, at the UN, getting protection from the U.S. government while they're attempting to assassinate me.
Yeah.
And he said what he would do if that was happening to the opposition candidate running against him.
Right.
And it was a real power. I think it was a real powerful moment. We'll get to that. New York City Mayor Eric Adams indicted on federal criminal charges. We don't know what. They believe it's related to campaign financing.
Right.
And he said, basically they're coming after him. The narrative is they're coming after him because he's complained about the migrants.
This is I said this back then. When he was screaming at the White House, when he went to the judge and asked for the judge to do away with that New York City's sanctuary city policy that Mayor Adams' party implemented, put into place on the local level, all of those things, I said, he's not going to be a two-term mayor. They're not going to like this. Wait for it. There's going to, there's going to be something thrown at him from his own party. They have no tolerance for that kind of dissent.
We'll know very quickly whether the charges are legit or not.
Exactly.
We're going to know very quickly.
Exactly.
Because this is campaign finance, which means, we'll figure out very quickly whether it's a bogus campaign finance prosecution or whether it's legit or not.
Right. And if it turns out to be bogus, it's not going to be a shocker. Look at all the things they've thrown at their opponents, and if you're one of their own, if you're one of the Democrats,
Tulsi Gabbard, for God's sake, she's on the terrorist. Did they ever take her off the terrorist watch list?
I never heard anything like that. I never heard an update saying she's no longer on that watch list. So they'll come after anybody and everybody. If they need you to shut up or be out of the way, if you're a nuisance, even a member of their own party, you need to look out.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America. We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. To start this hour, just let you know the latest update on Hurricane Helene came in from the National Hurricane Center. It's the 1 a.m. Central, 2 a.m. Eastern. Every 3 hours, they come out with a new update. Still 85 miles an hour. I'm telling you, this thing probably in the next 5 hours is going to go from 85 miles an hour to a major hurricane very quickly here. Yeah. It's starting to move faster now. Now it's moving north at 12 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
It was at 9 in the last one. So as we had said yesterday, this thing looks like it's going to make major, it's going to move extremely fast.
Yeah. It has all the right conditions to become a very, very, very strong hurricane. And low wind shear is at the heart of that, along with the warm waters of the Gulf. And it won't see increased wind shear until it gets closer to shore, which means it will by then be a very, very dangerous storm with a storm surge of 18 to 20 feet. And then on top of that, rainfall. You could see rainfall 8 to 10 inches or more in some areas, adding to the storm surge there along the coast, but also wreaking havoc well inland into Georgia and the Carolinas, and tropical storm winds that reach outward 345, 350 miles from the center of this storm. So that means a lot of people are going to feel those damaging winds.
And not just on the Gulf Coast, on the Atlantic coast, all the way up to the border of North Carolina. That's massive.
Yeah.
And that's just a massive.
This is why you're seeing the map, when they look at the map of the probability and likelihood of things like power outages, and you see the majority of Georgia, pretty much the entire state of Georgia. We're Florida, at least northern Florida, there is a given, but even you're going to see, again, with that kind of reach, with that kind of footprint, you're going to see those damaging winds, and this is the case quite often with major hurricanes that have hit Florida, far from the eye of that storm. But Georgia, you get into the Carolinas, everyone should be prepared. If you are in the direct path there along the coast in Florida, our friends in Tallahassee, heed the warnings. Evacuation is a must. This is going to be a life-threatening storm when it comes ashore. Get out of the way.
All right, in other news, remember we said this election will be unlike any other election.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be completely and totally, completely unique, and you're just not going to know, what kind of curveball is being thrown at you.
Right.
Yesterday was one of those days. I mean, I could not. And then really when I woke up is when everything came together. And I woke up before I came into the show, where I just sat there, woke up, started scanning my phone, and started laughing, going, wow.
Yeah.
But when I saw yesterday afternoon, Biden throwing Harris under the bus, I mean, to this level, and then basically saying, we're going to do a major tour, going everywhere, talking to people, and he's going to be throwing her under the bus.
Yeah.
Because clearly that's what he did. That was the intent. Because they know, the Biden administration knows that if they go out there and say, oh, she was with us completely 100%, she doesn't want that and the campaign doesn't want it. That's the most bizarre thing. You might be able to make a case right now. Well, think about it. You can make the case that Kamala Harris's biggest political enemy or enemies is not Donald Trump. It's her own words in the past. The story came out yesterday when she was DA of San Francisco. She was completely for the total ban of all handguns, yet she owns a handgun.
Right.
As we said, you can't win. You can't win that one. And so it's whoever thought the election would be, well, Trump actually isn't her worst enemy. She is because of what she said. And if you don't think that's accurate, look at the Trump commercials. I have not seen a Trump commercial where he voices it. There may be one out there. I haven't seen it.
Other than the legal tag at the end.
At the end, yes.
It's
right.
It's all her.
Right. And when I see her commercials, it's her talking.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, they can't use the things that Trump believes against him because they know the people agree, the majority of people and voters agree with Trump. But the thing I didn't see to this degree, because we knew Biden was going to be ticked off, and we knew by a couple of things that he already said that, he was in a more of a subtle way saying, oh, no, she was with me completely on all of this. But yesterday, yesterday what he said, to repeat what I said earlier, he took away Mark Cuban's number one argument that that she isn't responsible. Biden was president. Yeah. She was vice president. And I never forget the tweet he put out. Does anybody know what the vice president does? Does anybody know when you have a president or a vice president who is in charge in a mocking way?
Yeah.
Know that.
Yeah.
And that was Mark Cuban's attempt to say she was not in charge. He's in charge. Well, Biden came right out and said, no, I delegated everything to her.
Right.
Everything to her I delegated to. Anything that happened in the administration that he's taking credit as a positive was delegated to Hillary, to Kamala Harris. You can't make this stuff up. I want to play this audio from Dana Perino yesterday on Fox News because this is pretty funny. Here we go.
I never thought that Joe Biden would make a political contribution to the Trump campaign, but he did so today. Because I don't think there's any way the Harris people thought that this was going to be a good idea. He says, as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do, and I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Everything.
Why wouldn't you just cut that soundbite and run it in all the battleground states and, figure out a way to sabotage her?
Exactly.
I mean, it just...
Listen, we've seen him wear a MAGA hat. He did it without anybody asking him to do it. That's not photoshopped. He actually put it on his head.
The MAGA hat. Oh, wow. That's the commercial.
Yeah.
You play that
while he's putting the hat on.
Yeah, you
play the audio from what he's saying.
No, you play that, and then at the end, the split screen comes in, or the screen fades, and it's Biden in it wasn't a MAGA hat, it was a Trump hat.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
With the Trump hat on.
Yeah, it wasn't the red one, it was the other one.
Yeah, with the Trump hat on. That's what you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, you cannot. How do you do damage control on that one? And the thing is, you look at the faces. Did you notice as he was speaking, all the people in the view, almost reminded me of what was it? in Wayne's World too. Remember Screaming Dan or
Yeah, it was
Gorgeous Dan or
what's his name? Shearer.
yeah,
Harry Shearer.
Harry Shearer.
Yeah. As he's switching carts and the whole thing.
He's not paying attention, and then there's
All of us in radio knew that moment. By the way, it was like
yes,
and we were watching it. All of us in radio were watching it, going
Handsome Dan.
Yeah, Handsome Dan. That's it. Yeah.
And he wasn't handsome, and they thought, what's his name? I can't think of the actor's name who played Jefferson on 2.5 Men. And he was on the Love Boat and Happy Days and all that. Mm-hmm. They first thought he was Handsome Dan, and then Harry Shearer comes in.
Yeah. Right.
Handsome Dan?
Yeah.
That's right. I'm Handsome Dan. That's what I was thinking of. That's what it reminded me of in The View. And then you look at their faces, and they're smiling, but it's like, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Why is this happening? It's a weird. It's the backhanded compliments, right? Listen, she was so great at opening up the border. She was the key to that spending bill that catapulted inflation. Next, I'm gonna expect them to say, she's so busy. Sometimes she just forgets things. Like she called me one morning and said, "Hey, Mr. President, I left my cocaine somewhere in the White House. Did you find any?" She's so busy.
So busy.
She's so
she doesn't
energetic.
know where she left her cocaine.
This is classic Biden.
I mean, that's one of the worst political moments she has had is Biden throwing his total support behind her and giving her credit for everything.
I'm telling you,
in the Biden administration,
it brings my theory together. I am convinced in my heart of hearts that when he wrote that letter that he was dropping out of the race, or whoever wrote it for him, and he included in there his endorsement for her. I endorse Kamala Harris. That was a throwdown. That was the gauntlet. I dare you, everybody else in my party, not to endorse her. And look how long it took. It took days for the Obamas to come around. It took days for them to come around. And then everyone reluctantly went, okay, like The View, like sitting on The View, listening to him talk. They were going, they were smiling, but not smiling. That was the reaction as they were basic and the same type of look at the weird convention stage that they had. This was as contrived as it gets when everybody knows that she wasn't the one. No one was calling for her to run. A year before, last September, you had Anderson Cooper on CNN making the point with the guest, but yeah, come on, isn't she a drag on the campaign? They were talking about her no longer being a part of the ticket long before they were talking about Biden dropping out.
I'm wondering whether the Federal Elections Commission is going to charge Biden with an in-kind contribution
to Trump
to the Trump campaign
exactly.
as a violation of the Hatch Act.
I was going to say, it's he's the current president. He's campaigning for the opposition. It's the Reverse Hatch Act.
The Reverse Hatch Act. Okay, that's better.
Which for a liberal, and if you're helping Trump for a liberal, it gets you life in prison.
I can't wait to see Karine Jean-Pierre.
Oh,
now that Ducey. Pete, that'd be the question. Did he do basically a violation of the Reverse Hatch Act?
Yeah, exactly.
Helping the other campaign? That'd be the question Ducey should ask. Why would the president help the Trump campaign?
Right. This was a huge boost, clearly, to the Trump campaign.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Just unbelievable.
It's a gift in so many ways. It's the gift that keeps giving because it gives to Donald Trump, and it gives us so much to talk about here on this program. So Thank you, Mr. President.
And then when I say she does, her worst political enemy is her and Biden. And I say that not just realistically, but holistically here. I want to play this audio.
All right.
There we go. All right.
Some of the work is going to be through what we do in terms of giving benefits and assistance to state and local governments around transit dollars and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing and looking holistically at the incentives we in the federal government can create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner that includes prioritizing affordable housing.
Huh? What's she saying?
I don't know, but apparently holistically is the word of the day. Another word, salad.
Look, don't try. Look, if you're saying to yourself, I think that Marianne Williamson and her campaign strategy is a way to go, I think that's a bad choice, Kamala.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yes.
Wow.
I mean, it's just, what a zoo of a day. It's
yeah.
Like, oh, my gosh, it can't get any better or entertaining. I mean, It was entertaining as heck
yesterday. Oh, my gosh, it was.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
It's a common road rumor that it's impossible for one truck owner-operators and even carriers with just 2 or 3 trucks to get freight direct from the source, the shipper. Yet, hard-won experience from untold numbers of owner-operators with authority disproves the notion. Search your home base area and, later, frequent freight destinations to find all the manufacturers, distributors, and other shippers in the area. Once you get that list, ask yourself if those companies know who you are and what you do. If not, you're leaving opportunities on the table. Strive to own your backyard, to build a solid foundation for the business. For many a small fleet, it's the loads outbound from home that are the bread and butter. But you can take that same approach to the destination area, identifying shippers there and getting on the phone to make sure they know who you are and what you do. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more detail on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
Red Eye Radio, he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up, and just reading this headline here, Iran's plot against Trump is an attack on America. Iran's efforts to assassinate the former president deserves united bipartisan response, and as we know, it has not. It has not, so we'll get to that. Yeah. And Trump had something to say about that yesterday. We'll get to that. More on Biden just throwing Harris under the bus big time, plus the Kamala interview, and also the Department of the hearing yesterday with the IRS whistleblower. Man, I'm telling you, this whistleblower, unbelievable what they did to him. He ended up being right, and still destroyed his entire career. And he was right. And this is the whole thing on January 6th, where he just questioned in an internal email what the management was saying.
Right.
And he said, this isn't right. They did everything to destroy his career, took away his security clearance. He got everything back, including, they made a settlement with the FBI. But his FBI career is over. He goes, my career in government's done. I can't go anywhere with it because of what they have done. He goes, but I did the right thing. And he goes, and I do it again.
Well, and that's it. When a whistleblower comes forward at that level, they often know it's the end of their career. And
but that's
in today's world.
But it's against the law what they did.
It is. You have to do what you got to do. But so many whistleblowers have to weigh that out Am I going to give up my career? Or am I going to let this go on and stay quiet? Retaliation is a very real thing. And at that level, we know what the brass in these departments are willing to do. You come out as a whistleblower, yeah, your career is over. And that's a shame. But there is really, I don't know how you change it. I don't know what you do to change it. But this is a huge part of what's driving many in this election for this kind of behavior to end.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, so with the Kamala interview yesterday, that still was... I woke up yesterday and went, what?
Yeah.
Because we had spent some time yesterday talking about it was Brett Stevens from the New York Times. That's who it was, I believe. Who's a never-Trumper. Yeah. Who was on Bill Maher, along with Stephanie Ruhle from MSNBC, saying, she got to answer questions. She got to answer questions. And Stephanie Ruhle was saying, no, she doesn't. She doesn't need to answer questions.
Right.
We know what Trump is. He's a threat to democracy. We don't need to know any more. We don't need to know any more about her. And he goes, no, she needs to answer questions. Well, we don't live in Nirvana, and when we live in Nirvana, I'll move next door to you, or something like that is what she said. But her whole point was, and we were saying, see, and this was an article that was written, I believe, in the Washington Examiner, that was saying, and this is how we got on it, because it was Byron York talking about the fact that these journalists aren't journalists, and we went, they're not journalists.
Yeah.
They're radical political activists. They don't care. They're not ashamed, but, they understand what they're doing, but they still hate it. I think what happened here, because I woke up, and next thing I know is she can do an interview with Stephanie Ruhle, and I'm like, what? Well, when you start calling a journalist, when you start calling a political activist who's trying to pretend that they're a journalist, a political activist, they get upset.
Yep.
And I still go back to Bernard Goldberg, who wrote the book Bias. He said, you got to understand, they don't believe they're biased or political activists. They just believe they know everything. There's the right, there's the left, and then there's how they think. And even though 99% of what they think is on the left, they don't view themselves as the left. When I read that, I went, wow. Well, was he true? Because is that what you saw? She actually asked some pretty good questions that Harris couldn't answer. It wasn't all fluff. But I thought this was the best after the interview was over and she went back on MSNBC to be questioned about it. But first it starts off with the Kamala response to corporate taxes.
But how do you find that line to make sure corporations are paying their fair share, but they're not leaving our country?
Well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I have spent a lot of time with CEOs, and I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industries, investing in bringing down costs, invest in entrepreneurs like small businesses, that the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits.
Talk about that answer.
I do, but here's what's a little tricky. She doesn't answer the question.
What?
That's Stephanie Ruhle saying
That she didn't have to.
I know. I mean, it's just, yesterday was just one of those days. I was laughing in the studio alone. I think Alan and Ron next door were looking at him. What's he? Is he drinking? Is he? Because I kept laughing when I was in here before the show began, just on everything that was going on. I'm like, this is just unbelievable. Nobody. You notice there's no consistency on the left at all? Nothing.
Well, they keep, again, painting themselves into a corner and also throwing boomerangs. It's when you have a candidate here, when you have a nominee, that gives you nothing. You're scrambling. You're furious. When's the last time the liberal media had a nominee that was giving them nothing? That didn't feed them the talking points, didn't write the articles, didn't write the interview questions themselves. It's been done for the modern ages. I mean, it goes back a long time. They love carrying the water. Well, she doesn't even have a bucket to give them. Forget the water. She's not giving them anything, so they're scrambling. And they make up things. You know, Brian Stelter pretty much was conveying the same thought. Oh, look, it's about her image. It's not about her words. What words would that be? It's bizarre. It really is bizarre until you back up a minute and look at the Harris campaign of nothing. Someone who's lying about the core tenets of the Trump values, lying to be more like Trump. That's just weird.
Well, I do have some questions again, and these are questions I've been asking for my full 35 years my full 35 years in talk radio. Completing the 35 years will be what, next Monday?
I don't know. Is it?
Well, I started the first week of 89, the first week of October in 89.
All right.
So whatever the first Monday
That'd be
was.
1989, not 1889, to be clear.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I don't believe modern commercial radio.
Hear ye!
Started.
Hear ye! Where's my lantern?
My father, Paul Revere.
The British are coming.
Hey, man,
shut up!
Dad's 98 and a half. He might have been around there.
Yeah.
When I tell him, I said, Dad, you've been alive for more than a third, almost 40% of the nation's history.
Crazy. That is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, right?
And then, yeah. But it was just, it was an insane day. But she did, but we're able to bring back something again. Something I've been talking about because Democrats have been saying it for the 35 years I've been a talk radio host, and never has anyone been able to answer the question. This is one question that the Democrats have never answered. What is a fair share? What's the amount?
Right. Right. Define it.
Is that unfair? Democrats, since you've never answered that question, why is that unfair? Why is it unfair to ask what a fair share is?
Right.
Is it Am I unfair to ask what a fair share is? Everybody needs to pay their fair share.
Mm-hmm.
It's still roughly 50% of the bottom wage earners don't pay anything in income tax. The top 1%, I don't know what it is. Normally it's between 38 and 42%, the top 1% pay of income tax. I don't know what the latest version of it is. And the top 10%, I believe, pay over 90% of the taxes. So what's a fair share? But the most important thing is when she uses fair share for corporations and saying, let's go to CEOs and say, what's a fair share for corporations to pay? What's a fair share for, because she said most CEOs would say that they should pay their fair share. What's a fair share?
Right.
Don't you think that when you talk about something, since I've been a talk radio host for 35 years, you should be forced to define what the parameters of what you're talking about is?
Well, it's this weird, ambiguous virtue signaling. It's an ambiguous answer to a question that is actually should be very specific. How many times have we heard it? It's a lot like the whole two-state solution thing. You just throw it out there because you want to seem neutral. A fair share. Well, I don't side with either side. I'm independent. Fair share, two-state solution.
Because and I like that, a fair share two-state solution.
It's the ambiguous blah 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 blah, and then you move on. It's because you can't commit. Say it. 98%. I don't know. Pick a number and then tell me why.
Yeah. Well, the fact is, this is as the most successful lie, in my opinion, that the Democrats have had since I've been a talk radio host. 35 years next week. Is the fair share for corporations argument that they make. They have been successful in convincing the idiots in America that if you tax corporations more, you're punishing the rich.
Right.
That's a lie. That's an economic lie that a significant portion, and I will call them idiots because you are. Of course, that doesn't include anybody in our audience.
No.
But you're an idiot if you believe that, because this is the entire point. It's greed, it's greed, it's greed. Tax the corporations. Well, then if they're greedy, and that's another thing we've done this before. We've gone after the greed. So greed to you is making a legit transaction, voluntary transaction with somebody else who wants your product, but greed is not demanding that someone pay for your life.
Right.
Well, to me, that's greed there.
That's greed.
That someone else should pay for your life, that you're not willing to take full responsibility and work 2 or 3 jobs to do what you have to do. I did it. My father did it. You did it.
Well, because and the basis of it, how they leverage it, is they use the word have. The wealthy have.
Right.
I use the word earned. So you take someone's earnings, what they earned, and you believe you have it, you have a right to it because you exist. That's what they call redistributive rights. Well, you have a right because you exist to what I have earned, or I have a right to other people's earnings because I exist? No.
Yeah. So we can define greed, but this is how the Democrats define greed. But where you're a fool is, and this is where, and maybe because you see the working class supporting more Republican ideas, is finally they've realized, oh, Democrats have been lying to me all along as if they're punishing the companies and somehow I benefit, where it's simply a stealth tax on me that the corporations pass on to me, and it hurts the middle class and the lower middle class, people at the lower economic spectrum. It hurts them the most, and it's a stealth tax. Democrats love taxing the poor when they believe they don't know they're being taxed.
Right.
Yeah, what idiots these people are is what the Democrats think. And they're going, yeah, tax the corporations and my life will be better. And they're paying more for their products. Oh, my God, are these people stupid? That's what Democrats think.
Yep.
Because they know. 866-98-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, it's really tough when you've got Google and we've got YouTube and everything else. Mm-hmm. Kamala Harris talking about last week. Remember, it was last week at this time, wasn't it? It was Thursday that she did it. Mm-hmm. Was it Thursday she did that debate, or not the debate, but the Oprah? Or was it Wednesday? Well, whatever. It was a week ago, where she said she owns a handgun, and if somebody broke into her home, she'd shoot them.
Yeah.
Well, we'll update you on what she thought about handguns. She wanted a full handgun ban when she was DA of San Francisco.
Right.
Full handgun ban.
Right. Yeah. You gotta look at that, and I think what the especially the hardcore left is looking at. They're extremely frustrated for her not owning her positions. They're okay with lies, but in today's setting, they want you to be radical. They want you to be radical, and she won't own her positions. They don't believe anymore in the, move to the center to get elected thing. They want you to own, because they believe they've said it out loud. No, we need to promote more of this, even in the wake of losing elections. When McAuliffe lost, well, the problem is we need more radical candidates in these election cycles so that we can win. And I think a number of them, not all, I think a number of them are frustrated that she's not out there promoting the hardcore left radical agenda.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Welcome. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you.
I wanted to say this a couple days ago, but there's been so many topics. But when looking at different ads, the political ads running in Texas, I'll say streaming, but they probably know where I am, and so I'm getting the ads.
Right.
But this is strictly streaming. I'm streaming, and when I was scanning Sunday, just to see if any ads were on the NFL games.
Yeah, I saw one during an NFL game. It was a Ted Cruz ad.
Was it the transgender?
I couldn't hear it. I was at a restaurant. I could see the TV. Okay. And he had there was a picture of Colin Allred.
Right. That every time I've seen an ad for Ted Cruz, it's been the transgender ad. I have not seen another ad. The same thing. I've only seen one or two Trump ads. Both those ads were on transgenders. Was on the radical transgender movement. Right. Is this the effort to pound on that to get more women votes? I'm asking.
Great question.
I mean, that was the question, because I'm looking at it going, there's a ton of other issues. But does somebody, for example, and I'll use Ted Cruz because I've seen more of the ads, but I mean, I've seen, probably 15 ads from Ted Cruz. Every single one is the transgender one going after Allred about that. Every single one.
Yeah.
Every single ad is on the radical transgender movement. And, boys in locker rooms, boys playing women's sports. And at the end, there's all these women standing there just looking at the camera, athletes, young women athletes looking at the camera. It's an extremely effective ad. I mean, it's extremely powerful. And is that the goal, to pound that home so women understand the fact that the misogyny in this nation comes from the Democratic Party?
It wouldn't be a bad tactic. It's something that we have done repeatedly on this show because it's exactly what's going on. They wish to dismantle Title IX. They're making, in fact, legal moves to dismantle Title IX. They're also making more and more moves to take the parents' rights away from children when it comes to making decisions for their children, including genital mutilation surgery. I mean, those are big deals. And that's a great question.
Because they look at it and they go, nope, on the border, you got it, Ted. You look at the issues. Yeah. On the border, you got it. On inflation, they blame the Democrats, whatever. So what do you hit him on, your opposition on? Well, the radical transgender movement. You pound on it. And I just thought it was interesting because yesterday the Senate Judiciary Committee held a confirmation hearing for pending judicial nominees. One of those nominees, Anthony Bradizzi, nominee for the United States District Judge for the Northern District of New York. And this is what made me think, oh, geez, I forgot to talk about the Cruz ads, because this is Ted Cruz. And this is the issue. And listen to how the Democrats, none of them can answer the question. And I think it was an article yesterday. It said Democrats are not going to get anywhere because they can't tell the American public the truth. They can't tell them what they really believe.
Right.
This is, I find that extremely fascinating, that Democrats cannot tell the American public what they truly believe. And we've seen it with Harris taking so many of the MAGA Trump positions that we don't even think necessarily Democrats are buying. And you wonder, this is a point on that. Could that be hurting her? If you are a loyal Democrat, forget about independents. If you're a loyal Democrat, when you see her holding the positions that she claims she's holding now that nobody believes, will you get ticked off because of it? Can that hurt enthusiasm to vote if you're saying, my God, she's saying she's going to be tougher on the border than Trump? They don't want that.
That's the point I was making as we were winding up the last hour, is that I think there is a decent chance. I think there are a significant number of the core left that are looking at this, and they're okay with lying. They're not okay with lying to the point of sounding like Trump. They're not okay with these core issues. They want someone who's going to, because to them, those are, you look at where we are on a number of things, and the left does not any longer want, the hardcore left does not want anyone who's going to try and become centered during the general election period. They don't, that was old school. They believe, and Stacey Abrams and other radical leftists have talked about it, that we need to keep the identity politics going. We need to keep the radical ideas promoted. We need more people that are running for office that are radical. We're not loud enough in our radical agenda. That's why we're not winning every time. And I think they have to be upset with the comments made about the gun, the comments, the lies that she's telling to seem more like Trump, because they look at it and say, this is your opportunity to come out and say, no, this is who we are. This is what we should be. This is what we should do. And instead she's like, no, I kind of like Trump's ideas. And she's lying about it, and they're not okay with that. She's not owning it.
Well, the left was upset. Not that Biden wasn't liberal enough, but he couldn't sell it to the American people.
Exactly.
That's why they were upset. And so they were looking for somebody who could sell to the American people what they believe and what they knew she believed.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that, there I am using believe in a sentence 3 or 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
See the effect she's having on me?
It's the belief that I believe.
But they always viewed Biden as not truly believing in his entire career the liberal things that he was doing. But when he did it, they were happy. But when they saw the blowback because he couldn't explain it properly, I believe many liberal Democrats went, well, we need somebody who actually believes what we believe now in there to promote it effectively. And, Harris, well, first they thought I think it started falling apart last November when you had the Gavin Newsom DeSantis debate, and Newsom got killed. And they're like, okay, he's out because he can't promote it. All right, we need her. We just need somebody, and maybe there's a better chance. And all of a sudden she comes in and she starts taking all the positions of Trump. And it's like, well, no, that's not what we wanted. And I wonder if that's killing enthusiasm on the left in the Democratic Party.
Yeah, because, again, it's the ultimate effect to be concerned about is voter apathy. And in the age of everyone being the activist and virtue signaling, well, I'm just going to stay home. We need better candidates, and I'm not going to vote for someone who's not going to own it or blah, 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 whatever. I think it is right now the biggest has to be the biggest concern for the Democratic Party on many different levels. Not only does she not have the energy to get people out there, the rank and file Democratic voter, but the core of the Democratic Party, I think a significant number of them, I think safe to say that they're not happy with her not owning the positions.
Now, I'm going to play this audio here. It's a back-and-forth questioning between Ted Cruz and Anthony Bredinzi, who's a nominee for the United States District Judge of the Northern District of New York. And again, this is on the radical transgender movement that he can't give a straight answer. Yeah. Here we go.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just weeks before the election, the Biden administration is trying to ram through yet 6 more federal judges without adequate vetting from this committee. There are 6 witnesses on this committee. Each senator is given 5 minutes of questioning. That counts up to 50 seconds per judge. They're doing this because the record of these judges cannot withstand scrutiny. I'm going to limit my questioning just to a couple because that's exactly what the Democrats want, is no scrutiny of radical judicial nominees. I'm going to start with Judge Bredinzi. Judge Bredinzi, should biological men be able to expose themselves to unwilling women, including underage girls?
Senator, that's not a view I share.
So your answer is no.
Senator, I want to be somewhat careful because there are a number of cases that are working.
Is your answer yes? You said that's not a view you share.
It's not.
Then why, just a moment ago, Senator Blackburn was asking you about, as a congressman, you were a congressman from 2019 to 2021.
That's correct.
You were original co-sponsor of and you voted for an Orwellian-named extreme piece of Democrat legislation called the Equality Act. The Equality Act mandated that biological men could play in women's sports, could go to women's bathrooms, could go to women's locker room. The women were not asked. The women were not asked if biological men could go into their locker rooms and disrobe with them. You sponsored it and voted for it. You just said a minute ago you didn't agree with men exposing themselves to unwilling women. If you didn't agree with that, why did you sponsor and vote for legislation that would mandate that women be victimized like that?
Senator, it's been a number of years since I sponsored that legislation, and I do understand that
it's been 4 years.
It's
been 4 years.
I understand, Senator. For the last 2 years, I have been serving.
I'm not asking about the last 2 years. You were a member of Congress. You sponsored it and voted for it. Why did you believe women and girls don't have a right to be free from harassment, to be free from biological men disrobing in front of them without the women or girls having any right to say anything about it or to protest anything about it? Why did you vote for that?
Senator, my recollection of the legislation is that it would prevent discrimination based on gender.
Your recollection is contrary to the explicit text of the statute. Are you fond of ignoring the text of statutes?
Senator, as a sitting judge now, and if I'm fortunate to be confirmed as a district court judge, I will follow statutory.
But you didn't when you were a congressman. You sponsored it, you voted for it, and by the way, to be clear, for some reason under Joe Biden, the state of New York really is getting hammered with judicial nominees. Another judicial nominee for New York was Judge Sarah Netburn, who on a similar issue ruled she had a serial rapist in front of her, a 6'2" man who was a serial rapist who decided to identify as a woman, and Judge Netburn ordered that 6'2" man to be incarcerated with women. Do you think the women in women's prisons have any right, and in particular a right not to be incarcerated, not to have a cellmate who is a 6'2" serial rapist?
Senator, I can assure you, if I become a district court judge, that I will follow the...
My question is, do those women have any rights not to be incarcerated with a 6'2" biologically male serial rapist?
Senator, I think every person has the right to feel safe, and I can tell you...
Then why did you sponsor and vote for legislation that did not protect that right and violated that right?
Senator, that was a time when I was a policymaker, and I do understand that there...
Okay, so those are your policy views. By the way, so do you have any regrets for sponsoring the Equality Act? You said apparently you didn't read the statute, you didn't know what it said. Do you have any regrets for sponsoring legislation that would force girls and women to be subjected to harassment from naked biological men? Do you have any regrets for that?
Senator, during my time being a legislator in the House of Representatives...
That's a yes or no?
I sponsored thousands of pieces of...
Okay, so you have no regrets about that?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. That right there, by the way, was a great job by Senator Ted Cruz.
Yep.
Go straight to the core of it, because this is how radicals move up in the judicial branch over and over again when it's, when you softball it during this process. Everyone should know.
Well, you know what he did? He played ignorant. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
That was when I was
number of years.
That's when I was a policymaker. So I'm asking you then, did
Exactly.
you believe it?
Exactly.
Oh, I'm not familiar with that portion of it. So you didn't read it.
Exactly.
So they're ignorant. They can't remember anything. This is where this is why you can play that and say, here's what, you want to know why I won't vote for a Democrat? Here it is right here. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Very clear. Very clear. The radicals only care about agenda. They don't care about the law. They don't care about the rights of women, for sure.
Nope. The misogyny and then the threats and the bullying of women if they don't abide by the misogynist, insane Democratic narrative of the radical transgender movement is just so reprehensible. It really is. And Democrats... I think in that equity bill, the equality bill, 100% of the Democrats that voted for it. Every vote was a Democrat.
Right.
100. From what I know, 100% voted for it.
Right.
So it's mainstream. That's mainstream thought. It's not fringe. 866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Here it is after all the gun stuff from last week, which was when she was on Oprah, Kamala Harris talking about, yep, I own a gun. I didn't know. Remember, Oprah? I didn't know that.
Yeah, right.
You own a gun?
Yeah.
And she said, if somebody breaks into my house, I'll shoot him. And then she laughed and said, my staff's going to have to deal with that. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. My staff's going to have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And then by the next day, a campaign spokesperson said, well, no, she doesn't believe that. And then they went no further, which then added more questions, which would be, wait a minute. If you're a gun owner and you're promoting that you're a gun owner, but somebody breaks into your house and you wouldn't shoot them, why not?
And why do you own a gun?
Yeah, and then why do you own a gun at that point? And as the story came out yesterday, Kamala Harris supported a city-level proposition to ban the possession of any handgun when she was district attorney of San Francisco.
Yeah, right.
The ban was contained in Proposition 8. On November 4th, 2005, the Mercury News reported, although Mayor Gavin Newsom has not taken a position, several of the city's most liberal leaders are supporting the far-reaching ban, including District Attorney Kamala Harris and 4 supervisors who are listed as sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
The ban supported by Harris was structured as to require city residents to hand over all handguns within 4 months. Confiscation of handguns.
Yep. We're not going to take away your guns.
The New York Post noted that the ban was approved by San Francisco voters on Election Day 2005, but struck down by state courts before it could take effect. So even the state courts knew it was unconstitutional to do that. She didn't. By the way, that would be under the state constitution.
Right. Yeah.
She didn't care.
Right.
And as we said, when she said she's pro-gun, we said she's a liar. When she says she's pro-fracking, she's a liar. When she says she's pro being tougher on the border and closing the border than Trump, she's a liar.
Yep.
And every Democrat knows it.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen where and when you choose.
And thank you.
Yeah, coming up here following the top of the hour, we'll have the latest update from the National Hurricane Center on Hurricane Helene. Last update, 85 miles an hour. Expected, though, to rapidly grow stronger in the next 12 hours.
Yes, it is going to be a very, very strong storm.
Right. They're expecting it to be a Cat 4, which would be winds over 131 miles an hour.
Right.
I guess winds between 131 and 150.
Right. Anything above 130 is a Cat 4, and up to 150. And you think about that kind of force. You think about, I've been in 80-mile-an-hour winds, and it was short-lived. It wasn't a hurricane. It was a storm. And I cannot imagine 130 plus. That's and the fact that you go 345 miles out from the center of Helene, and you still have tropical storm force winds that far out. There's going to be a lot of damage.
I can remember the strongest winds that I was ever in on a consistent basis was a blizzard of 77 in Buffalo.
Right.
And this is where almost hurricane force winds, winds over 70 miles an hour, just took on a frozen Lake Erie, just took all the snow that had accumulated and just pushed it right, like for 15 miles inland, just pushed all the snow there. The blizzard was created by the wind taking the snow. We got snow during that time, but the majority of it was the stuff pushed off a early frozen Lake Erie.
How long did those winds last? I mean, was it short-lived? I mean, was it like a full day of, because that's whiteout conditions, right?
Well,
of picking up that snow really strong winds. I mean, I would have to imagine that's whiteout.
To put it into perspective, we had, because my grandfather had died a couple weeks beforehand, and there was a major snowfall during that time too.
Yeah.
And so there was already snow. I can still remember driving my mother to the hospital with my aunt, and we couldn't find. I can't believe I got through. I mean, no four-wheel drive, but got through. And this was 2 weeks earlier, 2 weeks before it. And so you had a ton of snow on the ground already, but probably I'm going to guess that wind maybe 36, maybe 48 hours before it really subsided.
Right.
And then everything was just so wow. It was so, I mean, you had snow that was over the top of houses, you know, and you know, so you're talking, you had snowdrifts that were 30, 40 feet.
The pictures that you and I have looked at on Google, one that sticks out in my mind is the people, I think it's one or two people standing on top of one of those massive snowdrifts, and at their feet is a traffic light. Yeah. That's how high up they were.
Yeah, they were touching the traffic light in the middle. That was, that one is one I always, or the one that showed, for example, a huge highway sign. And the kids were touching the highway sign.
Right.
That's how high the drift went. I can still remember driving through, because I grew up in a place called the town of Tonawanda, which is a town of swift water. That's what it means, the Indian name, the Iroquois name, Tonawanda. And it's right along, you know, there's the town of Tonawanda, city of Tonawanda, and North Tonawanda. And they all, you know, buttress up against the Niagara River as it heads towards Niagara Falls.
Right.
And so everybody, you know, even back then, nobody could park on the street. From November 1st on, or maybe it's November 15th, I don't know what it is these days. You can't park on the street. You get a ticket because they want the plows just to be able to go down.
Right.
And so one street, this is Brighton Park, where I really learned to play golf. And we were going through there, and it was almost stiff. The snow, you know, the plows had pushed the snow up where it was 20, 25 feet up there. And the snow started drifting where it almost looked like the old Cowboys stadium that had the opening in the middle.
Right.
It almost felt like you were in a stadium that had a very high roof. You look up, you're like...
starting to build an arch almost.
Yes. It was a little bit like maybe a quarter of an arch, and it was like... Okay, we don't want to. How big is that arch? Is there a lot of ice? We don't really want that to fall on the car.
Right.
But we were driving around. We were driving around. We'd have no problem because they were plying the streets constantly in the suburbs. It was where you have all the old houses that were built before people even had cars in the city of Buffalo.
Yeah.
They don't drive. Didn't have driveways.
Right.
And so they're all parked in the street. That's what was a mess for a month.
Yeah.
You know. But I remember being outside. And we were standing, you look like an Eskimo. You dressed like an Eskimo. And so many layers. And so we were warm, but we had to go outside. And number one, we had to continually shovel the driveway. You couldn't stop doing it for that time. Well, I'm standing probably in 5 feet of snow. I'm sunk down in it. And the wind's hitting you, you know, probably between 60 and 70 miles an hour. And it's pushing you back, but... You're kept in because the snow's, you know, almost up to your hips.
Right.
And so that's holding you in place at that time. So I can't even, you can't, much more than that, you can't be in that. You just can't.
No. And when you talk about 130 mile an hour plus winds
oh, good God.
of a hurricane, then you add to it, of course, the storm surge, the flooding from the rain as well, heavy rain, well inland. And the reach of the storm, it is going to be so much damage here, so dangerous to humans. Heed the warnings. Get out of the way of this storm. Get out of the way of this storm.
So we'll have the National Hurricane Center latest update right after the top of the hour, which should be coming down here in the next 17 minutes. All right, so... This is really fascinating yesterday. What a bizarre world we live in. Trump yesterday. Here's a headline. Trump says Iranian president being guarded at UN while plotting an assassination against him is a strange set of circumstances. Just like what? And everybody knows it. There's not like, well, we don't know whether it's true. We know it's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Democrats know it's true. Everybody knows it's true. Why? Because the Biden administration told Trump it was true.
Right.
Here's what Trump had to say yesterday. And he talked about the fact that if he was president and the opposition candidate, if it was a Democrat being threatened, he tells what he would do.
If I were president and a former president and a leading candidate, I'm the leading candidate by far to be the next president. And that leading candidate was under threat. If I was president and the candidate was under threat, any candidate, Republican or Democrat, and by the way, I want to thank the Democrats because they just increased funding for the Secret Service, who work very hard. They increased funding for the Secret Service, and nobody will believe this. It was a unanimous vote. Republicans, every single Republican, every single Democrat present voted in favor. That was the first unanimous vote we've seen in a long time, and that's to increase the funding of the Secret Service. So I thank everybody in Congress. But if I were the president, I would inform the threatening country, in this case Iran, that if you do anything to harm this person, we are going to blow your largest cities and the country itself to smithereens. We're going to blow it to smithereens. You can't do that. And there would be no more threats. There would be no more threats. But right now we don't have that leadership or the necessary people, the necessary leaders. We have two people, not one. We don't even know who our president is right now. Who is our president right now? We really don't know, but we have two people, not one, that only keep looking. And when you do that, when you just look, trouble always ensues. So it's big trouble for our country. Meanwhile, we have the president of Iran in our country this week. We have large security forces guarding him, and yet they're threatening our former president and the leading candidate to become the next president of the United States. Certainly a strange set of circumstances.
Yeah. You look at that situation of where we are, and we've outlined it many times, the Biden administration allowing Iran to fund Hezbollah, to fund Hamas, and also to likely fund the attempted assassination, or the plot, rather, that was uncovered, to kill a former president. This is beyond insane that it's happening. It is a good thing that there was a unanimous vote to increase funding for the Secret Service. Let's put that into action and make sure that they all get the protection that they deserve. But let's also stop this madness and cut Iran off, period. Cut them off. They are they're very clear. The leadership in Iran has been very clear, especially since the killing of Soleimani. They talk openly about targeting U.S. officials and targeting specifically Trump. They're not trying to hide it, even. This isn't a conspiracy theory. These are known facts. And it's a known fact. The reality is that the Biden administration is allowing them to fund all of this, along with Hezbollah, Hamas, and all of their proxies, by not choking them out, by reversing what Trump did, and that was keeping them out of the oil game. And we must absolutely carve them out as a pariah and do it permanently. You don't get away with this. You don't.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I didn't hear any complaints because he said we'd blow their largest city if they plan to attack a Democrat nominee for president of the United States. Pretty tough to get angry at that.
Right.
But it also shows that, and we have said this before, because you'll hear this, Trump is an isolationist. That just shows Trump is not an isolationist.
Right. Right.
Because he's talking about, America's interests being threatened, where they wish to assassinate a nominee for the executive branch. Sorry, you don't do that.
Right. We'll come after you. We'll make it very clear.
Right. We'll come after you, and if they believe you, then they'll stop doing it.
And by the way, they do. They already believe him. They, we know because they know the history of it. Going back to Soleimani, because that move alone was strategic in the way that, first of all, you take out the man who was behind so many American deaths directly, but you did it directly in taking out one of their top members of their military. That was a gut punch to them and a loud message, and it's why we're here. We know they fear a Trump presidency, and they should. Let's hope that he's able to become president, and we once again put Iran in their place, and we need to do that as a nation. It shouldn't be just Republicans calling for it. It should start now. It should have never ended.
866-98-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Think about this.
What?
Just I've got to say it.
Okay.
I have to say it out loud. I thought about it, but I need to say it out loud.
All right.
Maybe I sort of said it before.
Okay.
But Democrats and Republicans, the current president of the United States, both houses of Congress, both know that Iran has multiple plots to kill Donald Trump, a former president and nominee for the Republicans for president of the United States. They already have attempted and had plots to kill John Bolton.
Yep.
And former Secretary of State
Pompeo.
I was thinking Panetta for some reason. Pompeo. We know it. There is no doubt about it. Nobody's saying, well, we're not sure. It's a fact. We all know it.
Right.
They know it. Why is the president of Iran, I don't care whether there's a UN, why is the president of Iran allowed in the United States?
Right. It's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Mind-boggling.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He's Eric Harley. I'm sorry, I had the time wrong. Normally, I only have the day wrong. I normally get the year and the time right.
Yeah.
But I'd said the National Hurricane Center is going to have an update coming up. That's next hour, not this
Right.
hour.
Yeah, right.
So it's still 85 miles an hour, but it just expect it to grow stronger very fast here in the next couple of hours as it moves, more into the Gulf, warm water. Still expected to be a Cat 4,
right,
which is over 131 miles an hour, 131 miles an hour or more, up to 150 miles an hour by the time it hits the Big Bend area of Florida.
And something to be aware of, too, is that the damaging winds that will arrive, long before, hours before the actual eye of the storm. Because of the reach, you're talking 345 miles out from the center of the storm. You have tropical storm force winds. So it's going to go on for the damaging winds are going to be in play for quite some time for a number of people along the coast of Florida, but also then well into Georgia and into the Carolinas even. Yeah. And that's just mind-boggling when you look at the footprint of a storm like Helene.
Yeah. Understand that the tropical storm warning is just not in the Gulf.
Right.
It's on the Atlantic side of Florida all the way up to the border of South Carolina and North Carolina.
Yeah. This is a very dangerous storm. Get out of the way of this storm if you have the ability to get out of the way of this storm. If you're along the Florida coast, that is a must. However you can, you have to get out of the way of this storm. It is extremely dangerous and will cause a lot of damage. And we talk about flooding, the winds, and everything else, and it's mind-boggling. We pray for the people that will be affected by this storm because the cleanup will continue for a long, long time. But Helene is on her way.
All right, what's the campaign today? We said this. It was this week. Maybe I don't know what week it is.
It all runs together.
It was because we're Thursday already. This week's just flying by. It was Monday where you and I said, well, it sort of seems as if where the polls are going. And you don't look, for example, at 538 or even the Real Clear Politics polls, which are looking at polls even as far as 2-3 weeks ago. And, when you look at the newer polls coming out, it seems that everything is moving in Trump's direction as to where he wants it. And this is when, if you've been listening to the show for a while, we said this months ago. We said you're really going to start to get an idea of where the movement is by the middle or the end of September. Now, we moved a little bit. I think last week is when we said, well, because of the attempted assassination attempt, that could skew the polls a little bit, and so we'll wait till this week. And when we got to this week, we see what direction the polls are going in. What I find interesting is, and this is after Harris's interview yesterday, January 6th, not an issue. It still remains that the number one, and it seems like right now that the number one issue driving people is what is the number one issue in almost every single election. And that's economic self-interest.
Right.
And you can even take the border as part of that economic self-interest because of the money. When you go, when you and I had played the audio earlier this week from Chicago, where they're saying, okay, we need temporary housing, $51 million for migrants that are up here. And the TV station was saying this is now a blacks versus migrants debate going on.
Yeah.
And then they had witnesses that were black that were saying, what about taking care of us? Why aren't you taking care of us? Why are you taking care of the migrants, before us? So that is also, when you look at the border, that's where it becomes an economic interest to people. And that almost always drives an election in the way of, and this is the interesting thing. Normally you would have an election where the incumbent or the vice president that's running, when you have massive economic problems or continue to have massive economic problems, that even the newbie on the other side, who was promising you all these things, but you haven't seen them in action, wins the election.
Right.
Well, now you have a former president who people look back at. And by the way, when Stephanie Ruhle said the other day, when she said, we know who this president is, we know who he is, he's a threat to democracy, I went, well, yeah, you're saying that. Everybody else is saying, no, he's not. I remember him, and you're right. I don't need to know anything about Trump because he was president already.
Exactly.
And the economy was better. However it was better, I don't care. And that's why I've said even all the economic arguments going back and forth. You saw that, we had said this yesterday, but Cuban was on, I don't know if it was on Cavuto. And, it was saying Trump is more socialist than, than Harris or Sanders or whatever. It's not connecting with anybody. All they say is, I don't care what Trump's saying now. And she's got to make the case. I already know that things were better under Trump. And so he's going to make sure if there's things that he miscalculated on, that's fine. He'll figure it out. But we know he figured it out back then. The economy was better. But that's why we had said, and we said this back in 2021, when you had all the Democrats out there, every single Democrat, remember? No, remember inflation is good? Remember that one? Inflation was good.
It means people are spending more money.
Right. People are spending more money because the products are more expensive.
Exactly.
I mean, it
was transitory.
Okay, I was thinking our friend Richard from Houston who came up with permatory. I go, no, it wasn't permatory. What was it? Transitory.
Right.
Well, it's like everything is transitory. My life is transitory.
Right.
But I want that transitory period to be a good period.
Right.
Not a bad period.
Right.
Well, yeah, I'm deathly sick, but don't worry, it's transitory.
Right.
Yeah, but I'll be dead.
Right.
But it's transitory. It'll be gone. You won't have the disease when you're dead. Okay, thanks. I mean, don't make that argument. But all the arguments they were making back then, and now we see what happens, and this seems to be turning into, I'm not saying that there aren't other issues where people agree with Trump, for example, wanting a strong foreign leader. I'm sure they do. And Trump can make great points, like he said, what the hell's the president? Okay, he didn't say hell, but that's the frustration you get to use that word.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on in this country?
Right.
Iran, we know. We know that there is no debate on that. How do we know? Because the Biden administration told Trump, Iran's targeting you for assassination. And we read the Time magazine story yesterday about the third assassination plot from the Pakistani man.
Asif Merchant.
Yeah. And all that went on there. We don't know exactly what they told Trump. You have the story from Gates that there are, 5 assassination teams, looking to go after Trump. I don't know why that one died, because Gates should have been looking for people to back him up on that, because it makes him look bad if that doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
But when we know without question, forget about any other country or any domestic thing, we know that Iran is targeting Trump because of the killing of Soleimani, and we also believe they know that the money supply will be cut off for their oil sales as it was when Trump was president if he gets in again. And so they want Harris to continue their funding. Think about this. Is insane to be saying this. They want Harris to be president of the United States so the funding for terrorism continues, because the United States won't stop it as they attempt to assassinate Trump.
Right.
And then Trump saying the president of Iran is in the country for the UN. We're helping to protect him, and they're trying to assassinate me.
Yeah.
And people look at it and go, that's just insane. And then you throw everything else in there. We know in the state of Texas, for example, Cruz, and I saw one Trump ad hitting the radical transgender movement, but almost all of it is on the economy. Almost all of it is on the economy right now. And that's really all everybody is talking about, Because when it comes down to it, almost every single election after a recession or in a recession or inflation, and this is why we warned Democrats, we warned them a long time ago. If you can't do inflation is worse than a recession.
Every person is affected by inflation.
Oh, and did you see that one? I forgot who the reporter was. Talking to some guy, she said, in Florida. Trump goes, well, you have a boat. Inflation must not have affected you. And he goes, it affected everybody.
Of course it did.
Affects everybody. Everybody feels it no matter what.
Right.
But you have a boat. And so if you have a boat, you have enough money where inflation didn't affect you. Inflation affects everybody.
Yep.
Doesn't matter. You're like trying to say, well, the fact that it affected you, you have more money, so you shouldn't want to vote for Trump because you have more money. You should want to lose that money and vote for Harris. I mean, that's the mindset. That's the insane mindset that these people have. But it still comes back. It always comes back in almost every single election, unless maybe you're at war, to people's economic well-being. And in this case, it's inflation. And they try to use every excuse. Well, the economy's doing great. My economy's not doing great. Why? I'm making less money. It's that simple. I'm making less money. What don't you understand?
And I'm struggling on every level. It's rent, it's groceries, it's affecting everything. So not just that every person is affected. Everything that you have to pay for is more costly. And that's the thing, is that the reminder is there all the time. In a recession, you have a certain level of unemployment, and those who are unemployed are certainly affected. But in higher inflation, the cost of everything is going up, and you're paying it every day. The reminder is constant.
We'll have a bunch of audio from yesterday, both a couple of the new Trump ads out there, even a former Kamala Harris staffer who talked about her interview yesterday, saying, "Nope, there's nothing fresh, there's nothing new. This isn't going to cut it." And then you've got Biden out there just killing her. We'll have to play that audio again if you haven't heard it.
Oh my gosh!
Oh, I mean, just destroying her.
Yeah.
Oh, no. I delegated everything to her, is what he said.
Yeah.
I delegated everything. By the way, that's not true.
No, it isn't.
He did. That's the thing.
Which makes you wonder. Yeah. But this is a Joe Biden move right here. Joe Biden was burned. Joe Biden was burned by his own party. Joe Biden was burned by his own vice president. Sorry, Jack. I ain't going to let that happen. Yeah. And he's on his out for revenge tour, and he's going to tell the world about it. Oh my gosh, yes. She said open the border, and I tried to argue with her. No, you can't open the border. We open the border.
Well, what's her campaign's defense? He did not delegate anything to her.
Right.
Oh. So she is useless. I mean,
exactly.
It's like you can't win.
So she's not doing anything?
You can't. I mean,
right.
It's like, but we've got all these audio cuts coming up here for probably the next hour, and we'll analyze each and every one of them, because some fascinating audio where Trump's commercials are going. In fact, one where he actually speaks now, but it ends with her speaking.
Yeah.
But I was shocked. I went, oh, Trump's voice in an ad. Okay.
Right.
And it's the Inflation is Disaster ad, only a 15-second ad, but again, very, very effective. Then I got to find the ad. There's one ad where, it's Biden and Harris going back and forth,
right,
where he says something and she says the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He says something almost word for word.
Right.
It's like, wow. So that more coming up. 866-98 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at J.J. Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on roadside inspections. Drivers must always be prepared for a roadside inspection. This means drivers should always have their personal, vehicle, and company credentials organized and ready and having any shipment paperwork such as bills of lading or hazardous materials shipment emergency response information organized and ready for the inspection official. Just an FYI, the top 2 violations written against drivers every year, as well as during Operation Road Check, are log general form and manner and log not current. Both are completely avoidable if the driver keeps the log accurate, compliant, and current at all times. Having the vehicle ready for inspection involves the driver conducting daily inspections and making sure any problems that are discovered are immediately corrected. Vehicle readiness also requires the company to make sure that the vehicle is current on all scheduled maintenance and that the maintenance schedule is adequate. This will make sure the driver is being given a sound vehicle to start with. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. All right, let me play the first Trump ad here first. Hang on. I want to get the Trump ad first. I got so many audio cuts here set up.
All right.
All right, here we go. This, nope, that isn't it. Here's the ad. I added a bunch of audio clips just in the last 5 seconds. But here it is. Here's it.
Okay.
Inflation is a disaster. Kamala's inflation nightmare continues to cost the average American family every single month.
Loaf of bread cost 50% more today. Ground beef is up almost 50%.
That's it. That's the ad. And when he's talking, you see, what inflation was, during his term and
right.
what it is,
right.
during, her term and how much it costs, $17,000 for the average American family.
Right.
And it was like, that's it. 15-second ad, boom. And that has to be that's got to be a TV ad because it's exactly 15 seconds. We know this in the business when an ad's a minute and 23 seconds long and they're playing it, we know that's not for TV.
Right.
Or radio.
Right.
Well, that wouldn't be for radio because it's a video ad.
Right, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of digital ads are 15 seconds because they say that's kind of that's about the tolerance on digital before people want to click away from it. So you might see it on digital.
Is it really 15 seconds?
Yeah.
Our attention span's down to that.
No, it's about that. And we probably don't have many 15-second time slots or avails in radio. You'd have to stack those to a 30 or 4 of them for a 60. There are plenty of ads that the Trump campaign has come out with, so you might get to that. But I think the 15-second thing is one of those digital things. It's like shorts. People are watching shorts and short clips. TikTok, in the TikTok age, that's their time span. It's got to be short and get on with it.
Listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I was thinking when we were talking about political ads, and we played that 15-second Trump ad, and it's the first ad. And again, we're not in a battleground state, so understand we don't see the number of ads that you see if you're in a battleground state. So don't sit there and go, you guys are missing all the ads. We know we're missing a ton of ads.
Sure.
And the frequency that they're being played, we miss, which would give us an idea of, okay, what the campaign is trying to do. Mm-hmm. But that was that's the first ad I've heard or seen from Trump where he speaks. Except for the end of it where, at the end, this is Donald Trump and I approve of this message.
Right.
So the thing I wonder about, how effective are these ads? Because you have seen the vast majority of ads. I think every single ad he's running that I have seen, she's doing all the talking. And I'm talking about Harris.
Right.
She's doing all the talking.
Right.
And I just wonder if that's much more effective, because if you're somebody who's an independent, you may hear Trump's voice and go, I don't want to hear it. And you're gone in a second.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But if you hear her voice, I can actually tell me if I'm going too far here. I can actually, Eric, see a Democrat hearing an ad that starts out with Kamala's voice talking about the most radical thing possible, and they think it's a Kamala ad, and they're happy with it.
No, that's a great point.
Because it's far left, and at the end, all of a sudden, this is Donald Trump, and I approve of this ad.
Yeah.
Or you get the voice come in and say, this is what Kamala Harris, this is the similarities, not similarities, this is why Kamala Harris believes everything Joe Biden has done, and then there's Trump's voice.
Right, yeah.
And I just wonder if it's more effective because you have Kamala's voice that starts almost every single ad. So you've got people thinking, well, okay, if
you've got their attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's another ad that they're running showing the similarities, okay?
Okay.
Another ad.
All right.
Bidenomics is working.
Bidenomics is working.
We have the strongest economy in the world.
Our economy is the strongest in the world.
My Build Back Better framework
Our Build Back Better framework.
to a steady and stable growth.
Stable and steady growth.
We've come so far since my inauguration.
Our country has come a long way since President Biden and I took office.
Nothing says her vision like copy and paste from the boss, does it? Right? I mean, come on.
Kamala's economic plan is Biden's economic plan. Well, you heard that was one of the Fox hosts.
Yeah.
Who said it's easy to have a plan when you copy and paste from the boss. Is what he said. That's what he said.
Exactly.
So so when you hear those ads, because I've never seen this in modern American politics, where almost all the ads that the opposition runs is you in your own words. Now, I'm for it. We said early on, you don't have to do any ads. You don't have to speak. Right. If you're Trump, just play her in her own words.
Yep.
Play her in her own words. That's all you have to do, because then she's going to have to make an argument against it. But this election is turning into, as most of them do, economics. And the Democrats, I believe, if they lose on November, if Harris loses, it's because they downplayed inflation, as if inflation didn't matter. Or actually, inflation is much worse than an economic recession because it affects everybody. And for some reason, they never wanted to acknowledge that, or they just wanted to ignore it in their lust, in their borrowing lust, because we all know how inflation happens.
Well, I think it's both. I think it is, people look at it, they know what caused it, and they know that the Democrats are not willing to change what caused it. That behavior they want to keep in play. And even, I think, a number of Democrats look at that and say, we can't keep doing this.
3 years ago right now, see, we don't live in the bubble of today. Mm-hmm. We remember what happened 3 years ago right now is where you and I started seeing those polls that showed that the majority of Americans did not want that expanded child tax cut or tax credit to continue.
Right.
Because they tied it into inflation, which means they tied in government spending to inflation.
Right.
So when she's out there saying, we're going to spend $25,000 on this, $50,000 to new small businesses, $25,000 for people for homes, free college, well, then all the Republicans have to say is all this spending's going to get us back to the problem that we have now, which is, and even Stephanie Ruhle brought that up. If you're going to do all these things and the Republicans won't increase corporate taxes, you're going to have to borrow to do it. Well, we're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it. We're going to have to do it. And that's where she didn't answer the question, because she was saying, how are you going to do this if you can't spend, if you cannot raise the funds, you're going to have to borrow the money, implying that's what got you here.
Right.
That's what got the inflation, was spending. This is a former Kamala staffer on CNN yesterday. Here we go.
A little critical of the vice president. I felt like there was absolutely nothing novel about what happened today. I mean, to give an economic speech at an economic club in Pittsburgh, I mean, there's nothing about that feels fresh, new. It's not even consistent with what I even know about her. I worked for as her communications director. So my point is to her and her team, you've got 40 days. The only way you can beat Donald Trump is you've got to take greater risk. That message that happened today at 3 o'clock in the middle of the day, I'm not sure that that's going to move any of the constituents that she needs to target right now, Latino and black men, for example. I'm not sure they heard themselves in that speech. And what I know about the vice president is she actually sees people, and they need to put that on display. But this was not, to me, was not a great...
Let me let...
Ashley Etienne, that is her name. She was former senior advisor to President Biden, also communications director for Harris. So, I mean, she's the one saying it's not working. What will work? You notice nobody can say what will work. Well, she needs to focus on, as she said, black men and Hispanics. How?
Right.
How?
Well, where is the plan?
Yeah.
What is she lining out that tells you that? By the way, at this point, nobody's even asking her for a detailed plan. Just a plan.
This is Mark Lauder from America First, the PAC out there, also on CNN.
Well, I mean, I think she failed to do what the American people want to hear from her. She has no policy to cut grocery prices other than to blame price gouging and install government price controls. She's talking about government handouts for housing as opposed to bringing down mortgage. It's a handout to cover the fact that because mortgage rates are off the charts because of their sky-high inflation. They're not bringing down gas prices. People knew that they had more money in their pockets, things were more affordable, gas, groceries, everything was better off when Donald Trump was in office, and government price controls and more high tax increases for big business is not going to create jobs and grow the economy. Well, I mean,
there you go. Yeah. I don't know who the woman who said was, it's not a handout. Well, I don't know what giving $25,000 is.
That's a handout.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
That's a handout.
I don't know how you
By the way,
define
it's
it.
a handout to the banks.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have, if it's not your money that you're using as the down payment, then you're still just as inclined to walk away from that home and go into foreclosure. The whole point of having a down payment is putting your own money up to have teeth in the game, so there's a less of a chance of you walking away from that obligation to the bank. If somebody else gives you that money, that's not your money. You still don't have teeth in the game.
I think what Democrats fail to realize is, when you go back to, because you and I were shocked when we saw that. When we saw that back in September, October of 2021, we were shocked that Americans actually said, well, no, the government shouldn't be giving us money because it's caused this inflation.
Right.
Because that was talked about a lot back then. And there was talk, even in the mainstream media, how the Obama economists told the Biden administration, don't do this, you're spending, there's going to be too much money and too few goods. This is what causes inflation. Government policy always causes inflation. So the public remembers that. Because the public sort of remembers what causes them discomfort. If it doesn't cause them discomfort, if it's a theoretical argument, you may forget what the debate points are. You don't forget what the debate points are when you are hurt because of it, especially financially. So that's the problem that she has, and that's why we said at the beginning of the week, we're going to be here every day and being entertained at times as we were yesterday, which was extremely entertaining, with Biden coming out and just cutting her political throat. I don't know what other way to say it is, but he just threw her under the biggest bus you could ever imagine.
It's wild to watch it because it's a backhanded compliment approach. Listen, she's so competent. I just turned over everything. I love the fact that she's capable of doing all of this. It's why I was able to do that. And it's just, it is so Joe Biden. This is a Joe Biden move. Listen, I'm going to delegate work in all of these items. It's about passing the torch.
If you haven't heard it, I'll play the short audio.
Wow. It's
wild. Here's a short audio cut of Biden yesterday on The View.
And as vice president, there wasn't a single thing that I did that she couldn't do. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to delegate her responsibility on everything from foreign policy to domestic policy.
Listen. I delegated. Now it's a lie. He did not delegate all those things to her.
No, he didn't.
That's the fascinating thing. But he's saying he did.
He's on a tour to promote that he did. It's the full malarkey tour. Yes. But think about this. It's designed to bring her and basically join them at the hip. No, we're two peas in a pod.
Yeah.
I delegated everything to her. She came to me and said, it's time we got out of Afghanistan. I said, okay. She said, we need to open the border. And I was like, well, wait a minute. And she said, no, really. And then I thought, okay.
I delegated to her because she knew she was on my wavelength completely.
Exactly.
My God.
I said, we shouldn't be spending so much money. And she said, but the American people need that money. And I was like, okay, if you think I trust you, Vice President Harris, and if you do this, I think it's going to cause inflation. But if we do this, there might be some problems. She says, no, go. And it was great watching her work. It's weird because he's at the same he's trying to convince you that he did it because she's so capable. He's lying about it, but it is a weird backhanded compliment approach to throwing her under the bus.
I really wondered when I saw that yesterday the first time whether it was AI.
Yeah.
I really did. I said,
it's just bizarre.
I've got to go verify this one. 866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. We should have an update coming any moment now from them as to the status of Hurricane Helene. Also, we will hear the comments from the mayor of New York, who has been indicted by a federal grand jury. Now, what we're told is the sources say it's campaign violations. As you and I talked about, he was very strong against this administration. And as you said, kiddingly, you said, I found it very hard to believe that this administration would go after someone who was very vocal against what they were doing in their administration.
They would never do that.
We'll know. It won't take long for the legal scholars to look at this.
Right.
And non-legal scholars who just understand the law and find out whether, the charges are legit or not based on whatever evidence that they produce.
Mm-hmm.
This shouldn't be hard to figure out whether he is being targeted by the federal government for coming out so strongly against the immigration policy of the Biden administration.
Yeah.
We know they'll go after Republicans. The question is, would they go after Democrats, or are these charges legit? We'll know.
Yep,
we'll know.
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.